Hello, Mara Smith. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks.
I have to tell you, I'm super excited about talking to you today because 2 years ago, I started really immersing myself in social media, learning the strategies that would help move businesses forward so that I could teach other people. You are one of the very first people that I came across at that time, and you've been such a strong leader ever since. It's been really fun to not only gain all the information that you've had, but to also watch you over the last 2 years just really grow in leadership with social media. Can you give our audience an idea of your path to this point?
Oh, sure, sure. Yes, thanks for asking. You go by Deb or Deborah?
Deborah.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Always like to get people's names right.
Sure.
My path, yeah, I actually like to joke that I'm an overnight success, 10 years in the making, because where I am at right now, it's been a culmination of many, many years of trial and error, if you will, and following different paths, always fulfilled. If I look back over my entire career, both when I was an employee and also since I've been an entrepreneur over the last 12 years, uh, I've always I've always had a joy. I've always been fulfilled and following my heart and kind of like keeping one eye on the horizon, knowing that there was another level to go to, knowing that as I grew myself inside and did more and more personal, spiritual, and emotional growth, that my outer world would evolve to reflect that. So really, it's a matter of culminating all the different passions over the years. Like I have experience in copywriting and web design and not so much graphics, but email marketing and information product creation. I'm at the heart. I'm a marketer, and I love people and I love the internet. I love the technology. So Facebook basically landed my lap in May of 2007, and I just fell in love with the platform. I really caught the vision. I was a bit of a holdout, I'll be totally honest. I was like, oh, not another site where everybody sits around and exchanges information and chats or whatever. But it was really, really different. It was a powerful, eye-opening experience for me the first day I pulled up Facebook.com, and I'm still in love with the site. I think as much as it's radically changing and it drives us all bonkers, it's an amazing platform. So I think really my passion has been what's driven me, but I'm very fortunate, and there's probably many of us who are out there and leading in the social media world that have that gift to be able to connect with people and nurture and maintain relationships, but also take technology and take the complex, simplify it in order that you can teach it to other people, that their light bulbs go off and go, oh my God, finally, I get it. Some people take the simple and complexify it so, they make themselves look smarter. I don't know anybody like that. I'm just making that up. But in other words, I think that what I'm trying to say is that there's more people would rather to have something simplified, because even when you think you're explaining something in a real simple way and using terminology that's native to a certain platform or a certain industry, people are still like got their eyes twirling, going, wait a minute, what did you say? How does that work? And so, yeah, but it's just been an interesting journey, a fascinating, rewarding journey.
And I know what you're saying because a lot of the people that I work with, if social media has not been a core piece of what you do, if it's not your core business, then it's very. I get a lot of people who apologize to me. I'm sorry, I don't really know very much about Facebook and things like that, and I let them know it's okay. Everybody starts somewhere, and what
Right?
seems like chaos eventually starts to straighten out for them, so that they can understand what's really going on in Facebook.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, I agreed.
So now you also work with not just Facebook, you work with a lot of the other social media sites, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that if we, I mean, it's one thing to have a focus and have a niche. I think that's great. And it's really interesting, the perception out there. Sometimes people will say to me, gosh, if anything ever happens to Facebook, Mario will be out of a job. And I'm thinking, well, I wasn't born yesterday. I've been able to, work for myself for a long time, long before Facebook came along. So, I evolve and grow. And I think that I don't mind that I kind of used Facebook as a way to position myself as a specific platform-based expert. However, and now with this new book I have that's just coming out, the new relationship marketing, something's been close to my heart for about 10 years. I've actually called myself a relationship marketing specialist long before social media was a buzzword, long before Facebook even existed. And it is an evolution where it's beyond the medium, it transcends the medium. So if Facebook, something happened to them, or Twitter or Google Plus or whatever comes along, I'm going to go and learn that new platform and decide whether I integrate and include that. I got really excited about Google Plus in the midsummer there, and my enthusiasm has waned just a little bit. It seems to have just kind of, the luster has worn off a bit. I'm looking forward to to Google Plus really picking up some more momentum because it's very promising. It's an amazing, and those Hangouts are just a brilliant invention. So yeah, I don't tend to necessarily be platform specific. However, having said that, I'm working right now on version 2 of Facebook marketing, an hour a day with my co-author Chris.
And I want to talk to you about your newest book. Now, your newest book is not out yet, right? It's coming out
It's
very
just
soon.
coming out. I just have to hold it up because I do have one right here.
Yes.
It doesn't come with bling, but I added bling on mine.
Perfect.
A couple little blings on the top there. So yeah, the new relationship marketing forward by Guy Kawasaki.
Oh, wonderful.
And I just adore Guy. He wrote the book Enchantment.
Right.
And yeah, it's got 9 steps in there, nine steps, kind of exponential, where you are, the reader is guided to build a large, loyal, and profitable network using the social web. Now, it's a social web. To me, the web transcends, goes beyond just the internet. It's offline as well. I really like to integrate offline marketing. So that's attending events, speaking at events, hosting events, looking to see who you can network with, who's in town that period of time, or who's local, that you can take for lunch, for instance, and just really nurture relationships proactively. Because, it's interesting, as much as technology has advanced, there's no amount of technology that will ever replace face-to-face, in person. We're getting real close right here doing video, and especially when it's like a live broadcast and where people can interact with the Hangouts, for example, on Google. You got will.i.am from Black Eyed Peas, and he's talking and interacting directly with his fans. That's the closest thing we'll ever get to in-person with technology. But nothing can ever beat that. And I really talk a lot in the book about that, about really getting yourself out there, getting out from behind the computer, going out and meeting people, then taking that back off online, because you can take photos and videos and do interviews and really get great mileage and create content actually when you're out and about meeting people.
Now, you also talk in your book about circles and the importance of relationships and circles. Can you tell us a little more about that?
It's fun. Okay, so I wrote the book. The first manuscript was submitted about March of this year. It's a long process getting a book out there. But I signed the contract, I think, December of last year. So here we are. It takes a good 3 months in the editing process. Anyways, so the circle. So I wrote the book before Google Plus launched and had their circles. And so it was interesting. I was able to go back and add a little piece in just in the final edits. And the concentric, so it's 5 concentric circles. And the idea is that you can do this exercise or not, but even just having these categories through which you can kind of filter or process your relationships. And the innermost one is intimate. So those people that you absolutely trust with your life. And I encourage people really as a practice to look to see who they can add into that circle, who they've really got a resonance with, who's on the next circle out, which is friends, and not necessarily Facebook friends, because you don't always know them. They sometimes can be complete strangers. So not Mark Zuckerberg's definition of friend, but
right.
A friend, a true friend, but someone who you really, really want to build up more intimacy and connection with. And there's been some studies done in the States where most people only have 1 or 2 people in that inner circle, which is their spouse most often. So think about how you can build up your support system from a personal standpoint, which will empower and help you on a business standpoint. Moving on out is what I call your key contacts, and there's a whole exercise in the book. I call it Hollywood Squares, where you actually have like a grid, and you put people in there of who you would just love to be in relationship with. Maybe have them as a client, have them on your speed dial on your cell phone, someone who becomes a good friend, and you're hanging out with them in their house, vice versa. And they can help you to grow they can strategically make a couple phone calls for you. The whole 6 degrees of separation is, like 2 or 3 degrees. What is not what you know, it's who you know, but it's also who knows you. Just before our call here today, Deborah, I got a beautiful email, actually moved me to tears, from a friend I've known for over 3.5 years, 3 years. and 3 years, and he was just sent me this beautiful acknowledgement saying he'd just gotten a book deal, and it was thanks to a recommendation and an introduction and encouragement from me, and it's just very, very humbling. So some of those people in your key contacts you never know what doors they can open. Out from there is your acquaintances and then your general community at large. So the idea with the circles is you kind of look at who needs to be placed where. Maybe you've got someone who you want to get to know better, and you really make effort to reach out to them and connect more in person and online. In addition, I don't always necessarily like to put too much emphasis on this, but sometimes in life there's people you're hanging out with a lot. Could even be a client. It could be a very high maintenance, client that's very demanding, and it drains your energy. My recommendation is release that client, let them go to someone else, so you can free up that space and use your energy with someone who's a much better match. So it's really being conscious of who you're spending your time with the most. Yeah.
And now, when you're talking about clients, this is something I know that as the longer that I spend on social media, I learn so many different nuances, not only different strategies, but just different, the whole realm fascinates me because of the new communication. And one of the things that I've realized recently, and I'd love to hear what you think about this, is that clients who come to me through social media and through the content that I've put out online seem to be they're just better clients for me. They're such a really good fit almost from the get-go, and I seem to get that type of client much more, which is a wonderful surprise. I get those that fit very well when they come to me from that direction, not from local marketing and networking, but from the internet and the content I put out. Do you find that to be the case?
I do. I'm a great believer that like attracts like, and the beauty of the way that the social networks work is that we can really disclose a lot of information about ourselves and be real and vulnerable, transparent, whatever comfort level you have, with putting yourself out there. And what ends up happening is you become more revealing. You'll find that more people will feel that actually builds up the trust. It builds up trust because people really feel that you're being very, very honest. I really do this on my fan page and throughout my whole presence, really, is to foster a community of mutual respect. So I don't ever like to think it's kind of like, well, I'm the leader and I got all my peeps. It's like, I'm one of the peeps. They are equal to me, and I will give someone as much time whether they have 10 followers or 10 million followers. I don't necessarily differentiate like that. So, and obviously I'm a business person. You have to be strategic, and there's only so many hours in the day, but it's all of this, underlying all of this is the intent from which you come. My intent is to absolutely serve and add value, and not kind of go, well, gee, let me just check your clout score and see, if you're worthy of me conversing with. And I just, I don't quite buy into that. So
sure, absolutely. And so now you said you've been into relationship marketing even long before social media was on the scene. But now that social media is and the level that we are now, what is new about the relationship marketing?
Yeah, so the term relationship marketing was coined back in the 80s, in fact, by a professor, a little more kind of the academic side, a lot of definitions that were around like taking actions to sustain relationships, customer relationship management systems. There were some real specific definitions around it. And then it didn't really get a lot of, it's not like a term that you hear it every day. And I think it's beginning to really come to the forefront now because of social media. And the new part that I've talked about at length in the book is the fact that we have these platforms, these online platforms through which people are sharing an abundance, in fact, sometimes too much information about themselves. And so as a marketer and as a business person, being able to tap into that information, obviously, like with Facebook, we can get extremely targeted advertising and go well beyond demographics and into psychographics and what are called technographics, and really getting a laser niche audience. In addition, some of the soft skills that I talk about in the book that are crucial in this day and age is empathy and compassion and discernment. And so, for example, as you know, with Twitter, brevity is the name of the game. You got 140 characters. If you happen to see a tweet going by and it's maybe completely out of context. It's part of a larger conversation, or somebody's being mean or snarky, as people talk about, or negative or critical, and someone else just jumps in and makes an assumption or takes it personally and knee-jerk reaction, puts out another tweet. That's just gone out into the whole world, and it's public. And even if you change your mind a split second later and go, oh, I didn't mean to say that, delete, someone could have taken a screenshot of it somewhere, and it's going to be in the front page of the New York Times later that day. So it's really important to use your good judgment and to build the muscle, if you will, of what are called soft skills. It's really moving towards both men and women, really being good relationship builders, having great compassion, listening, understanding, nurturing. I don't know if you happened to catch the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. They did a hangout last Saturday.
Oh, no, I didn't.
It was amazing. A Google Hangout, like for the whole world to tune into. And Dalai Lama's quoted as saying this before, but Desmond Tutu did. And the interviewer said, what's your advice on how we can stop all the warring and the conflict and really create more peace in the home and in the planet? And Desmond Tutu's the answer is really very simple. Turn it over to women. And Dalai Lama said that it's like the Western woman will save the world. Well, I don't like to be sexist. To me, it's more about the qualities that they're talking about.
Right.
So this whole men and women, business owners and employees, and all of us, can we bring more humanity to the workplace and more compassion and understanding and relational skills? I think that's what really will make a difference in commerce and business.
And it's wonderful to see that change, because in the past, and I'm thinking like the 80s, early 90s, there seemed to be kind of a mean spirit kind of to business. If you wanted to be good in business, you had to be ruthless. You had to really get in there and dig people. And that never resonated with me. And so I love that now that's turning, that's flipping completely, that it is about relationships, and it's about sharing. I mean, one thing that's my favorite piece of social media is that it's really about sharing and helping people. And that's, to me, just a much better way for all of us to live.
Yeah, I know, I agree. It's interesting, you're right. I think I've seen a little bit of a shift kind of in the internet marketing world, where the headlines not that long ago would, crush the competition, kill the guys, all these real dominant words, no.
Right. Yeah, all the titles of all the business books would be those, really, really aggressive. But let me ask you, because you were talking about putting things out there and then being sorry that you did. Can you talk to us a little bit about, I know one of the biggest fears for people who are starting to get into social media is there are many people who are very much afraid to put anything out there. Because, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. In fact, I thought this was such an important topic. I dedicated one of the very first chapters of my book to it, about identifying and then taking steps to overcome your perfectly normal fears. They're normal fears, where it's that hesitation of, gee, will I share this online? What happens when I share that? Often in my classes, people put their hand up and say, well, can you just explain the absolute fundamentals? When I write something on my Facebook wall and I hit post, who can see that? What happens to it? Where does it go? Etc. So the fears are perfectly, normal. Like I say, that just the privacy and being exposed and people feeling vulnerable and not wanting to actually even succumb to peer pressure to have to live in a glass house. And people will resist even getting involved in social media because they think that there's just this expectation that you're just going to, live it all out there in the open. You have to share. You don't. I actually have a couple different ways to approach this, or three categories, if you will. I've said this for years, and it's so important. You've got, for those of us who are entrepreneurs and business owners, your personal life inextricably intertwines with your professional life. You don't kind of go, this is me at work, oh, now I'm at home, and work, home. There's a natural weaving together of the two parts of your lives. Now, where you draw the line and do not go and share stuff is you put it over here in a third category I call private. I actually make a distinction between personal and private. In private, the three-part filter is, would I be comfortable, before you hit the button anywhere to post and publish, would I be comfortable with this if it were to be on the front page of the New York Times? Would I be okay with this being found at a Google search in years to come, archived for my kids to see? Would I be proud of my mom to see this? You can pass those three tests and off it goes and you can publish it. I call it like the longevity test. So that helps people to go, well, wait a minute, I can still have a private life. And some categories that people love to hear from in the personal world are travel, family, and hobbies. And that's it. I have a dear friend of mine who's very, very introverted, and several years ago, she's just getting into social media, and she was saying, Mara, I'm doing everything by the book, and I'm sharing, and I'm commenting, and I'm good content, and I'm on there a lot, and it's not really kind of flying. And she decided to open up, and she'd heard about this hobby. She said, well, I run. I'm a marathon runner, and I think I'm willing to let people in just a tiny bit into my personal life. And she shared something about, I'm putting on my running shoes and getting ready to go in training for this marathon. And it was just like the floodgates opened. All of a sudden people are, oh my God, oh, my husband's a runner. What shoes are you wearing? Oh, where are you running? What marathon? Oh, what city? And it was just, she suddenly, went from being all about business to being a real person.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's hard to know where that line is and where and how to walk it. So I think it takes time to learn exactly how to do that you have to kind of just jump in a little bit and see how it goes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add one piece to that, because we're right in the midst of this new change with Facebook. So the ticker and the subscribe button, both of those have caused me to be a little more hesitant. And because I'm a pretty open person, but I'm thinking, and I'm reading about this on my fan page too, people are like, I'm kind of commenting and liking a little bit less because I know this is going to go in the ticker, and who knows who could be seeing it. Facebook reporting every move. And then also when I opened up my subscribe, and I've noticed a reduction, and actually less friends and family members are interacting with my content because I've got all kinds of complete strangers on there. So very interesting dynamic to watch.
And isn't it interesting that Facebook changes all the time? Just when you think you have it figured out, now there's something new, which is always potentially wonderful, a lot of the changes that are coming along, but it just means that now there's one more thing to figure out and kind of keep everybody ahead of, and here's how we use it now. I mean, on one hand, it's a challenge. On the other hand, it can be exhausting sometimes.
I agree. I know sometimes I think to myself, what possessed me to choose an industry that changes multiple times a day? And I talk over this with my spiritual teacher, Esperanza, and she has products and programs, and I'm like, sometimes I'm just a little bit envious of you that you teach like timeless principles, universal principles. They're never going to change. You can put a product out there and it's the same in 20 years' time.
No, and so let me ask you then, the frequency. I get the question a lot that how often should I be on Facebook? How often if I'm marketing my business, how often should I be there putting messages? Can you give some advice on that?
There are studies. And there are many different studies. So I really like the ones done by Buddy Media. That's buddymedia.com and /resources. You'll get a whole bunch of free white papers there. And then, who else I like is Dan Zarella. And he works with HubSpot. He's a social media scientist and written some books and stuff. Now, comparing the two, Dan will say that the average number of times to share on your fan page, and he compares, I think, probably more big brands than small businesses. And it was 0.5 times a day. So basically once every other day. I'm thinking, what? Once every other day? No way, that's not enough. On the other extreme, I've seen people say as much as 12 times a day. And my best advice in this whole aspect of how much is find your own sweet spot. So I know for my fan page, somewhere around over 50,000 fans, if I share more than 3 times a day, I will see an increase in the number of people that unlike and unsubscribe, which means they've hidden your post from their newsfeed. A little bit different again in the midst of these new changes right now. The fact that any Facebook user can now interact with your fan page content right up site-wide beyond just your fans. So maybe trying to share a little bit more content. And now with this new public-facing stat, people talking about this, that's everybody, fans and non-fans, everything that they're doing with your page, with like, comment, post, tag, RSVPing for events, you name it, all of that is aggregated together, and you got this number displayed right out there in the front, saying, hey world, look how many people are talking about us, or not, as the case is in a lot of these pages. So now it's like it's like, well, gee, do we up the volume and hope more people will interact, or decrease Sometimes less is more. Decrease the volume and maybe you actually have more. The thing is really fascinating, again, human dynamics, and this has been in place long before Facebook. This whole like 90, I saw 99.1 I was posting about the other day, 90% of your of people online are lurkers. They will read, they will skim, but they will not take any action. About 9% will go in there and they'll make comments and they'll act. And that 1% are the ones that are doing what's called UGC, which is user-generated content. They're the ones that are actually, writing, generating posts, wall posts and blog posts and everything like that. So when you realize, well, gee, okay, all right, it's not just us. You try to do your best to to ease out the 90% are lurkers. Maybe you can just, up the comfort level, as we were talking earlier about safety and privacy issues and people feeling comfortable enough to go, oh, hey, I am here. I do have a voice. If somebody's listening, and making it safe for them to do so.
So as far as that, trying to draw people out so they'll interact with you more on your page, can you give us just a couple of ideas of what are ways we can do that, can encourage people who've just been very quiet to come and talk to us?
Yeah. Well, another change is that before we could only post, it was actually 420 characters, and then it went to 500 characters, and then again with the big F8 conference changes went up to 5,000. So that's, basically like a blog post. Mm-hmm. They're basically the same as Google+. So I had heard it said before that shorter was better for more engagement. So under 80 characters, Buddy Media's studies show 80 characters or less. Well, I'm kind of verbose. It's a little hard for me to 80 characters. But I've experimented and I've noticed that I will kind of go in little cycles. So sometimes I'll go real short and just a question or a poll or, a statement. And then I'll go a little more longer and more thought-provoking. And I notice a whole different breed, a whole different category, if you will, of Facebook user or whatever site we're on, Google+. They'll come forward and they'll interact because there are people that do like things that are more thought-provoking. So, but one of the things, regardless, a really hot tip is always to put some kind of call to action. So the different actions they can do is like, comment, or share. And the share, as you know, can be with their friends on their profile. It can be a group and it could be a fan page. So assuming that their fan page would get the best mileage, you want to actually say, if this makes sense to you or does this add value to you, click the share button, share this with your fans too. Or you'll see something simple like, I'm glad it's Friday. Click like if you agree. It's sometimes so simple like that. You blows up with likes. It stays at the top of the news feed for all day Friday. It's like people just like a like is just somebody said the other day there, I was talking about this whole lurker thing. Somebody said a like is a poor man's comment. like, I'm here, but I'm only going to click like. So
and I've also wished there were a dislike, not for a bad thing. But my niece is going to have a baby, and she was talking about how her morning sickness was, really a drag. And I wanted to click like, but then I realized, well, that would not be right. I don't want to like that you're saying. So sometimes a dislike would be good. Probably most of the time not, but it is funny how we interact with those different options.
Truly. There's new verbs coming. That's going to be amazing when all these new verbs come in.
Oh, my goodness.
Like a recipe app. So you're going to go, Mari is cooking this meal. And then, Mari ate this meal. Or I'm not putting my name in there, but I'm not going to be doing that. It's way TMI for me. But yeah, all these verbs. So read and watched and want and listened and there's all these apps. It's a lot of information coming
down the pike. Yeah.
See where it all goes.
Well, we want to make sure I am dying to pick up your book. I cannot wait. And tell us where we can find you online so we can pick up a copy of your book. It's the 25th is when it's coming out?
October 25th is the official date. It's starting to be online on Amazon, and a couple of people told me they already saw it in the stores, so Barnes & Noble has it. Okay. But just relationshipmarketingbook.com or marismith.com. You'll find it right there on the homepage, or marismith.com/book. And then I'm on Twitter and Facebook, or Google me, it's Mari Smith. So, but Amazon, just go to Amazon Relationship Marketing, new Relationship Marketing. They'll find it there. Yeah, it's on great sale right now. I don't know when the price is going to change. I think it's only $15 right now. They've got it.
Oh goodness.
free publication price. So, and it's on
Ah.
Kindle too. I went and bought my own book on Kindle the other day.
Oh, that's the ticket for me. Once it's on Kindle, it's mine. So
Uh-huh.
that's
Yeah.
exactly where I'll go pick mine up at.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. We really appreciate you've been such a wealth of information, and you put so much great content out there. It's just wonderful that you have that out there for freely for people to come and just really start to absorb what they should be doing with social media. And I just again, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Glad to be here. Thanks, Deborah.
All right, take care.
Ciao.